Hello, everyone. This is Dave Goulas, president of Easy DC 3PL, and thank you for tuning in to the Beyond Fulfillment podcast, where we spotlight small business owners, entrepreneurs, startup founders, and we have real conversations about their journey, what it's really like, and what they've learned along the way. Thank you and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Beyond Fulfillment podcast. I'm your host, Dave Goulas of Easy DC 3PL, and this week, my guest is the social media standout and a voice helping all generations collaborate together, Brielle Wohlenhaus. Welcome, Brielle.
Hi, thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you could make it. If you would, for everyone, can you just walk us through your social media journey up until what you're doing now?
Sure. Yeah. So I moved across the United States a couple years ago when I was 20. And from then on, it just gave me a lot of room to grow and really evolve. And one of those things was deleting all my social media. I was really serious about my future, finishing my degree, in the process of creating some things. And I was like, wow, I feel like LinkedIn truly has the most potential. And so I really started to maximize that platform and started to scale it and meet a bunch of amazing people and cultivate relationships through there. So that's when I slowly but surely started putting my name out there and building my brand and doing some freelance work. So it's been amazing to start that social media journey on there. And then, a couple years later, here I am now.
Okay. Yeah, and you post a lot of like inspirational and like motivational kind of personal development content. And from my perspective, it is rare seeing someone as young as you posting that type of stuff that's so much more, I guess, for lack of a better word, mature in terms of, knowing what you want, knowing what where your future is and the goals you have. Like where did that come from?
Well, I have two amazing parents, so I got to give it to them. They're both great in their own amazing ways. And really, just I'd say always being very independent in the sense that I'm not easily influenced. There's a lot of noise out there, there's a lot of opinions, do this, do that, peer pressure. I've always been extremely mentally tough and well versed in saying no, like, no, I'm not going to participate in that because I know that's going to drag me down a poor path. I may not be friends with this person because they don't serve me anymore. And again, they might be making poor choices. So I'd say between those things, like the right influence, really being able to be not easily influenced, and then like loving to learn, always loving to grow my brain, put my ego aside and know that I only know what I know. And so when somebody is like, hey, have you ever tried this? Or maybe this would help you. I'm like, yes, like, what is it? Not like, oh, I know everything. So it's been a plethora of different things, but all of those little snippets really make me into who I am today.
Okay. You mentioned the peer pressure and like you just, if I'm understanding right, you just are about to graduate college.
So I did. I actually not commencement yet, but I'm out of college as of December. So
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, you're like when you mentioned the peer pressure kind of growing up in the teenage years, how big a deal is that for people like me? I'm in my mid 40s and I have teenagers and, so but from your perspective going through it, how big of a deal is that dealing with peer pressure in today's world?
yeah, I mean, it's essential because when you think about it, it really does shape your years that are so essential for shaping your brain and becoming who you're going to become. I get it. We all make maybe not the greatest choices now and then, and especially growing up, we're trying to find our voice and find our way in life. And so we may be more easily peer pressured, but I believe a big part of that is to do with environment. And that's why when I moved, living alone was such a nice thing for me too. Like, I didn't want to do the college dorm life. I didn't want to get wrapped up in that going out every night and partying lifestyle. Like, I was so focused on my future and my studies, and I want to get out of school so I can start working on my business and all of these things. But I've heard from other kids like, yeah, even, between us one-on-one, I wish I wasn't in the dorms, because I found that even though I may not want to do this choice, I feel like, a lot of kids were saying, because I'm surrounded in that environment, I would kind of be peer pressured to do so. So I know it's still a big thing. And unfortunately, a lot of kids may not be strong enough to say no.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, environment's everything. And, there's all kinds of studies too, in terms of how poor
Yeah.
performance can drag you down, or like you said, those habits where even if you have no interest, if you're surrounded by that, it's going to impact you for sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned deleting all your social media, and that kind of goes into like another one of your posts that I really like, when you're talking about it's so easy to fall into the comparison trap. And
Mhm.
that if you're not using social media like for your business or for a purpose or to create or for something positive that gives you energy, you really should just get off, because that mindless scrolling, it just drives you right into the comparison trap.
Right.
Can you
Yeah.
expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I look at social media like you're either a consumer or you get to be a creator. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of consuming. I do it. I'm like, oh, I see this. That's a really great idea. I like that idea. I might save that, or send that to a friend who could need it. But I would say I do about like 10% consuming and 90% creating, if not more. I want to be the leader that's like, oh, somebody else used my content. And quite frankly, I see people copying my content all the time. But it's like, you know what? That means I'm hopefully doing something right or doing something valuable. So you're exactly right. That was one of my favorite videos, because I feel like people were really like, yeah, you're right. If I'm not posting about a passion, my business, or something that's going to be beneficial, to somebody, then I'm just simply wasting my time. And for me, that was what I saw, just a lot of kind of mindless garbage out there. And I was like, this is not going to be a productive way to spend my time. And so I wanted to get off those other platforms and really start focusing on LinkedIn, which I believe is huge for, again, business, relationships, even school. At the time, it was really essential.
Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn's amazing too. And even though I'm on the other platforms, I mean, we post on them, but LinkedIn is where I spend the majority of my time, just because it seems like that you can filter out a lot of the, whatever you want to call it, noise, and
Yeah.
just engage with content that's, business minded, inspirational, has a good attitude, has a good message, and connect with like-minded people. That's what
Yeah.
I like about it. Okay. And another thing too that you touched on, where you mentioned all the different messages and kind of filtering out the noise. And one of your other posts that I really love, where you talked about routine times discipline equals achieving your greatest goals. So how important is like the focus and that consistent discipline and the daily activities in terms of making meaningful progress, like for you in what you're doing?
So important. I mean, for me, if I say I'm going to do something, I always stick with that, no matter how simple or difficult it may be. Ironically, with the New Year's resolution, just a couple weeks back, I've never done a New Year's resolution in my life, because I look at every day like that is my small steps. That is my New Year's resolution. I'm very disciplined. So when it comes to working out and accomplishing the things I need to accomplish, and eating healthy, like all these little things that I'd say contribute to who I am today and my success as a person, that routine is so important for me. Even when I don't feel the greatest, I still got to get up and do the things that I have to do, because then I believe it's far too easy. Oh, I don't feel like it today. Well, what about tomorrow? What if you don't feel like it tomorrow? Well, then that poor cycle of, all right, it's just too easy to kind of forget about the things that we need to do or push them aside, but we're not going to accomplish the things we wish to accomplish if we don't have that healthy routine, those healthy habits.
Yeah, and that's another point too you bring up, is it seems like in the last several years especially, there's been an emphasis on feeling and using that to guide action, to where, I mean, I can tell you, just whether it's running a business or taking care of a family, you have to get things done whether you feel like it or not, because that's your duty. So, and that seems to be a little contrary to some of the messaging out there these days. Did you see that
I
too?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, too much, like, listen, I'm a very empathetic, sympathetic person. If you lose a loved one, if something, massive to that degree is happening in your life, yeah, you might need to skip a workout. You might need to put a couple things on pause. But like if, oh, I have a little runny nose, or, I feel like in this society, there are a lot of messages going around that are just making us become more weak rather than mentally tough. And I totally disagree with that. Like the too much of the fuzzy feelings and do whatever you want and all of this, like whatever you want, whatever feels good for you. There's no routine in that. There's no structure in that. And that's where we get in trouble because nothing is going to be solidified with that mindset.
Yeah, yeah, routine and discipline, so critically important for sure. Another thing that you post about, which I really like, is your video process. So
Yeah.
you post a lot of original videos on LinkedIn, and that's something too where I guess, and I'm sure you deal with this too with the people you come in contact. A lot of people have like trouble getting past that, where they don't want to be on camera, they don't want to post a video, or it's got to be perfect. And I think, to quote you, you said, "I'd rather take messy action than not post anything at all." And people
Yeah.
care more about the value you provide than the aesthetics.
Right.
Can
Yeah.
you like how important have the videos been for you and your brand and what you've created on LinkedIn?
Videos are my number one thing. I mean, first of all, I love being on camera, and it's also been super cool to see my progress and practice. Years ago, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty good on camera, but then it's like, yeah, I wasn't like that great. And even now, I'm gonna look back years and be like, wow, I could have been a lot better. So that's why I think it's so cool when you're on camera because you get to literally document that progress, first of all. But videos are my number one thing. I mean, I feel like for anyone, if you're starting a business, if you have a business, that is so crucial because that's really going to convert. People want to get that one-on-one human connection with you and feel like they're talking with you through the screen, and it shows your personality and how you articulate yourself. Are you more soft spoken, like all of these different things, and psychology plays into it. There's a lot that plays into video, but videos are genuinely my favorite to create too. I love to speak. I also love to listen and watch other people's videos. So yeah, that's been my favorite to post.
Okay. And something else you said online is when you really started going all in with that, is you had an epiphany that other people's opinions are irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, I got past that luckily so long ago. It's like I've found the people who take the time to leave a nasty or negative comment, it's like, okay, you have no profile photo, or it's like you have nothing on your page. I mean, I could say certain things, but it's simply not a waste. It's a waste of my time. I'm not going to sit and reply to this, and getting defensive isn't going to do anything either. It's like you usually get a lot of positivity and a lot of people who are rooting for you and genuinely love your messages. And that outweighs the few nasty comments. And it just comes down to two, like, I care about very few people's opinions, and I tend to see in my life those are the people that I really care and really love about or love. And I think that's a good thing to care about. But when it comes to random strangers and things like that, it's like I'm putting out free content to help you guys. And if you're going to say something negative, then don't watch my videos. I don't need to take my time to do this, but I do it because I genuinely want to help people. And so that's why I appreciate all the positivity and all the people who take the time to leave a comment or to share my videos and stuff like that. Like those are the people that I do this for. So when it comes to people's opinions, you kind of have, again, different noise, different people saying different things. But at the end of the day, you got to stick to what you love to do, what you want to put out there. And you're not going to be for everybody, but you're certainly going to be for somebody.
Oh yeah, I love that. And that's something that we talk about in content all the time, is the content is not for everybody, it's for somebody, in terms of writing for that specific person. So yeah, and people are going to have opinions regardless. So it's you got to do you for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Something else that you speak up quite a bit about because you're in Generation Z, and you talk about and you can probably articulate this better than me, but the statistics of how many Gen Z people struggle with depression at such an early age within society. It's something like almost half. Is that right?
It's a lot there. Yeah, I haven't done a video on this in a while, but it was something like in the 40s or some crazy number. And honestly, I'm not surprised. I believe this depression comes down to probably three of the biggest pillars being social media, technology, expectations, and then sometimes it's poor parenting. Parents who are like, yep, here's your phone at a young age, go do your thing. And they're not taking the time to actually do parenting that is necessary with their kids. So maybe their kids don't know how to communicate, or they lack the social skills to go off in the real world, or helicopter parenting and they coddle their kids. And now, again, they're not equipping them with the right and necessary skills to thrive with other people, with difficult conversations, with everything that occurs in the workplace, with friends, like all of these things. And then social media itself, again, when we talk about discipline, what I've seen is I feel like a fair amount of people in my generation do lack the discipline to be like, all right, I had a little bit of fun time on social media. Now I have to get back to work, or I'm going to delete it because I want to do something else more productive with my time, things like that. So between those three pillars, I believe that just creates anxiety and depression, because think about it. If a young and vulnerable kid is constantly scrolling and consuming on social media, it's like, oh, I wish my life was that great, or oh, I wish I had that car, or wow, their girlfriend, boyfriend is so attractive. Like, I wish I was attractive like that. It just creates such a mind screw, and it's really sad to see, but it's just the reality of where we're at in society.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up like having a purpose or having a goal or having something that you can really put your heart into and make meaningful progress. That's where real joy and fulfillment comes from. But like you said, the noise today more than ever, we're inundated with messages and information overload. And yeah, a conscious decision to turn all that stuff off is certainly can
Right.
certainly help, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, that was it. And honestly, on that point too, I think I'd say the last pillar is to like a lack of solid faith, a lack of solid morals in life, a lack of direction. You can kind of go down that path too of why one might be depressed, is because if they don't have a purpose, or they feel like they don't have a calling, even though they do, because everybody does, they might feel like, what is there to live for? Which is very sad, but I went through that too of like, I don't know what I want to do in my life. I don't know what my purpose is. And so for me, something that was also really important, that is certainly why I am who I am today with how I do things in my life, is my faith. I started praying about these things, and everyone's different. Everyone has a different faith story, journey. I get it. But for me, those values and morals are like so seated in my heart that that's how I do everything I do. And that's how I plant seeds with other people and go about my life, is because there's a bigger reason to why I do everything I do. And that makes me excited and happy to get up every day and do what I do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, right, everyone has their own relationship, faith relationship, and it's just something that can guide you and like you said, make you focus on what your calling is, what you're supposed to be doing, what the right decisions are. Um, if someone from Gen Z was looking at this, like maybe they're in high school or around that age, and they're in that, so to speak, comparison trap, or they know that they're feeling just not right. And like, what are some practical steps someone could take to just begin to change some of like those depression, those anxiety feelings?
Yeah, I would say start small. When you look back a year from now, you'll be really glad you did. It's easy to want to be like, all right, I'm going to wake up and do this tomorrow. But if we have almost unrealistic expectations, like, instant gratification mentality, we're oftentimes going to set ourselves up to fail. So say it is social media, say you want to scale back. Okay, maybe if you have every social media platform, maybe start by deleting one or two, and automatically you're going to be spending a little bit less time on there. Or again, with social media, maybe block out like, okay, I can have a little bit of consumption time at this hour, but then I'm going to work for the rest of the day. And then maybe after hours of work, I can do a little bit more. Maybe if it's working out, I'm going to start eating one clean meal a day. If you've been eating a lot of junk food, one clean meal a day. You see just like little steps. Maybe it's friends. Maybe you're finding yourself in a toxic environment because your friends are making poor choices. Maybe sit down with them and have the conversation of, hey, I really appreciate you as a friend. I really enjoy our friendship. But if we're going to be making these certain choices, that's not something that I'm choosing to do anymore. And so I'm either going to have to break away from this friendship, or we're going to work together to make some better choices moving forward. So I feel like it comes down to conversations with yourself or with others about how you want your future life to look like. Do you want to stay stuck and stay stagnant, or do you want to do the oftentimes uncomfortable but necessary changes to get better? And then once you start implementing those, they get easier and easier over time.
Well said. Okay. So you've built up quite a following on LinkedIn. You're continuing to post and make progress, and as you say, kind of creating the next generation of leaders. So what's next for you in your brand and what you're doing this year?
Yeah, so I will definitely be talking about this more down the road, but I'm currently in the process of creating an LLC through some of the freelancing work that I've done. And over time, I definitely want to create something bigger over the course of the next couple of years. Some things I'm not talking about right now, but down the road, I definitely will. I've just found that that's my path in life. I've worked for other people, and that has taught me a lot. That has been great, but I'm really meant to be an entrepreneur. I love creating things. I love working for myself and having that time flexibility. I like working from home. I oftentimes am like walking around my house, working on my phone. I like to stay active. So stay tuned on that, because I know through LinkedIn, I'll be sharing some of that news in the next couple weeks, couple months. And yeah, down the road, exciting things to come. That's all I can say right now.
Okay. All right. And if people want to get in touch with you to learn more about what you do, or just to connect, what's the best way they can do that?
So LinkedIn, and then I actually did get on TikTok a couple days ago. So Brielle Wohlenhaus on both of those platforms right now.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much for being here, Brielle. We wish you all the luck and success in the future. So stay tuned to what Brielle's doing. And that's all the time we have this week. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Hello again, Dave Goulas here. Thank you for tuning in to the Beyond Fulfillment podcast. If you like what you heard on today's episode and you got value from it, please click the link below to subscribe so you'll be notified of future episodes when they drop. If you would like to be a guest on a future show, you can also click the link below, or you can email us at info@beyondfulfillmentpodcast.com. That's info@beyondfulfillmentpodcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.